To very little surprise, but my immense excitement, GameCube games are coming to Nintendo's online catalogue exclusively to Switch 2. Wind Waker was the first game shown, and it's a little bittersweet because it probably means we won't get the HD remaster on Switch, but I still get portable Wind Waker, so I can't complain too much. Soul Calibur 2 and F-Zero GX were the other two games shown to be coming the same day as the Switch 2, and I'm excited for both, particularly the idea of online play being added to them both. We also got a quick look of some of the upcoming titles coming to the service, and they're all great choices, some surprising and some not so surprising. But I have 10 more games that I would love to see come to the service in the future. Let's get after it. I've played plenty of GameCube games in my life, and for some reason, Bloody Roar Primal Fury is one of those that sticks in my mind. Now, I may have played Soul Calibur 2 a lot more, mostly because you can play as Link. I really love Link, but Bloody Roar still left a big impression on me. It's a fairly straight-up arcade-style fighting game, but each character has the ability to transform into a beast, to do more damage, and become the perfect, edgy, early noughties type of character. And that might not sound mind-blowing, but keep in mind this was the same time Buffy was vampire and monster slaying, and Goku was on Toonami beating the absolute brakes off of anyone in his path as the animal-like Super Saiyan 4. Beasts and monsters were a big deal back then, so probably a game of its time, but still one I'd personally like to go a few more rounds with. Donkey Kong Bonanza is not too far away, and that hype train keeps on chugging, but you may find yourself wanting to visit some of the famous apes' past adventures. And if so, the Donkey Kong Country games aren't your only choice. The GameCube featured a Donkey Kong 2D platformer not part of the Country series, Donkey Kong Jungle Beat. Now, I've never played this game, and that's exactly why it made this list. You see, it required the Donkey Konga bongo controller to play, and that never appealed back when I owned one. Hopefully, Nintendo could modify the game to give us traditional button controls, or give us a variation of the Wii version of the game, which was launched as part of the New Way to Play series of GameCube games on the Wii. But they may just save that for the future if Wii games eventually make it to Nintendo Online. With The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker making it onto Switch 2 day one, there is another Zelda game I'd like to see eventually show up. Of course, I'm talking about The Legend of Zelda: Four Swords Adventures. I'm a huge Zelda fan, but if I'm being honest, the Four Swords games have always felt like a little bit of a black stain on a incredible series. You see, this was a multiplayer Zelda. When Link drew the Four Sword, he was split into 4 different versions, thus 4 players could play at the same time. And it supported the GameCube to Game Boy Advance cable, meaning you could use the Game Boy Advance as a controller. And the action would even jump to the GBA screen for players to continue there. Where have we seen that idea before? But if they included online multiplayer functionality, or even just regular old local play between Switch 2 systems, GameCube's Four Sword Adventures could finally have its time to shine. Mario Smash Football is the Mario sport game on GameCube, but there is another GameCube Mario sports game I never got to play that I'd love to take a swing at. Mario Superstar Baseball is the first of 2 baseball outings that the Mushroom Kingdom had. What I love about these earlier Mario sports games is that they were a little more faithful to the sport. I mean, sure, they were still over the top and focused more on the fun of the sport rather than the nitty-gritty simulation of it, but that's what I personally loved about them. They were a nice balance between fantastical and simulation. And I also got to play as Yoshi. In the early Fast and Furious era of movies, Burnout stepped up to fill the gap of crazy fast street racing for video games. Burnout 2 Point of Impact was a game I spent a lot of time on, and if it came to Nintendo's online service, I think I'd be willing to put even more time into it. It may not be the best of the series, but I still think it's a pretty high point. The point of Burnout is to accumulate boost, and you do this by completing various Fast and Furious style tasks during races, such as near misses, driving into oncoming traffic, taking huge jumps off of ramps, and of course the coolest of all car tricks, drifting. But my favourite mode was Crash mode. In this mode, you do just that, crash, but try to create the biggest and most destructive pileup of cars you possibly could and score points based on how devastatingly destructive the crash is. I think it's a great game to jump on and enjoy in short bursts. Perfect then for handheld mode. I read a lot about GameCube, Wii, and DS games, and one game in particular was Battalion Wars, and I read every scrap of information I could about that game. Battalion Wars was originally meant to be part of the Advance Wars series, and features similarities in that it's a unit-based strategic game, but featured enough differences that it got a name change. It didn't launch to the best reviews, and I don't remember playing much of it myself despite the excitement, but I've matured in my game tastes, and a unit-based strategy game sounds quite appealing. Now, I'm going to cheat a little bit here and combine 3 games into one entry on this list, and that is the 3 Beautiful Joe games. Nostalgia is a powerful thing, and it's a big part of why I'm so excited GameCube games are coming to Switch too. But another huge part is getting to play games I never played before. And the Beautiful Joe games are exactly that. I've not played a single second of any of them. And honestly, looking at them, I don't understand why. They seem exactly my sort of thing. A beat-em-up platform game, you play as Joe, a movie fan whose girlfriend is kidnapped during a screening of Joe's favourite superhero movie. This results in Joe being thrust into movie land, where he becomes the hero, Beautiful Joe. In the MCU age, and with the upcoming reboot of the DCU, please let the Superman movie be good. Please! It kind of feels like Beautiful Joe was released in the wrong era. A over-the-top stylistic game featuring a movie fan that gets teleported into the worlds of his favourite superhero movies screams 2020s rather than early noughties. Not only would it be great to play these games, and hopefully I love them, but maybe with it being thematically more relevant than ever, and with more and more movies getting reboots and remakes and sequels, there could be a great premise to a new Beautiful Joe game that revives this dormant series. In the early noughties, I had 2 things on me at all times: my Game Boy Advance with Pokemon Crystal and Ruby, and my Yu-Gi-Oh deck of cards. Summon Skull for the win. So when From Software, yes, Elden Ring, Dark Souls, Bloodborne, that From Software, developed Lost Kingdoms on GameCube, I just about nearly lost my mind. In this game, you were able to collect monster cards that can then be used to summon physical manifestations of that monster to do battle for you. You're able to weaken and capture enemy monsters and turn them into new cards to use, as well as being able to buy, sell, and transform unwanted cards into stronger forms or new cards entirely. I loved this game and played it thoroughly, ensuring I collected every single card, which meant replaying levels over and over again. Imagine my surprise when they made a sequel. If Lost Kingdoms 1 and 2 managed to make their way to Nintendo Online, I'll be very happy indeed. But I also think this is the best part about the Nintendo Online service. Seeing games that were underappreciated or not widely known about getting a new chance with a much larger audience. There aren't many JRPGs on the GameCube, and with a remaster of 2 of the most prevalent ones already out on Switch, they're unlikely to come to the Nintendo Online service. But Skies of Arcadia Legends has no such issue. Another title I haven't played, but would love to. It is absolutely my sort of game. I love the way it looks, and I'm a sucker for a JRPG. But possibly the most exciting appeal is that it features airship battles. Now, I don't know how these play, but in my head, it's pirate ships in the sky, and I need that immediately. Coming out not long after the PS1 Final Fantasy trilogy, it shares similarities to those early 3D Final Fantasies in the way that it plays, taking on dungeons as you fight in turn-based battles, but I'm certainly not going to be complaining about that. This GameCube version is actually a port with improvements and new additions over the original Dreamcast release, so I'd love to get this more complete version, but I would also love to see Dreamcast eventually come to the Nintendo Online service. There are plenty of great GameCube games, and for the most part, they all got the love and attention they deserve. But there's one game I think has been treated unfairly. I've played it a bunch of times, both back then and more recently, and I've always found it to be great when others disagree. Star Fox Assault is not only an underrated gem, it is the best Star Fox game. Yeah, I said what I said. The game not only remembered what made Star Fox 64 so great, but it built upon it and expanded on it with an interesting, exciting, and cinematic style story wrapped around missions that had you storming bases as Fox on foot before jumping into a Landmaster or R-Wing and taking on waves of enemies. It was an exciting and thrilling game to play. I also really enjoyed that it didn't forget about Star Fox 64 and Star Fox Adventures. It built on the characters in those games by furthering their personal stories, such as including Crystal now as a pilot and Peppy being semi-retired, choosing to stay on the Great Fox rather than in the cockpit of an R-Wing. Now, I will concede, much like Metroid Prime, the controls need to be updated. I don't know what they were thinking in regards to the on-foot controls, but if they don't update them and this does come to Nintendo's online service, I beg you to stick with the controls, because when they click, you'll be in for a really fun and great game. There are a bunch of other great games I could pick, and maybe I'll do another video for them. But I also think there's a big range of games that won't make it to the Nintendo Online service because there's a sequel or remake, remaster, or some sort of new version that Nintendo would rather sell to you. And I think there's some cool games that are going to be stuck behind rights issues that will unfortunately mean they can't come to the service, due to ongoing new deals inside and outside the games industry, as well as some companies just not existing anymore. But hey, let me know what GameCube game you want to see on Nintendo Switch 2, and what was your favourite underrated GameCube game? If you like this video, please do leave a like and subscribe for more Switch 2 and Nintendo Online games. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.